Stay tuned to the end of this video for the biggest announcement I've ever made. Hey, hi, hello, how's it going? Hope you're doing good. Today, we gotta talk about the lead singer of the band God's Hate, Brody King. He was back in the news this week, and I didn't really have time to make this video, so today I wanted to talk about all the Brody King news bits that were going around this week because they're pretty juicy, not gonna lie. So if it's your first time here, my name is Dan Frampton, all one word, the O's a zero. Thank you for hanging out here while we discuss rock and roll music, punk rock, hardcore, and that kind of thing. If it's your first time here, why not hit like and hit subscribe? It really helps out the channel and all that sort of stuff. So, you know it, we gotta talk about Brody King. He's in the title, he's in the thumbnail, and I already mentioned it. What is going on with this guy? Well, not only is he a singer for the band God's Hate, he's also a wrestler for the company AEW. This guy is a big, beefy, burly man who was challenging for the world heavyweight title this coming weekend, I guess. I think tomorrow as a time of recording. So anyway, he went in there and had a match against the world champion. It was called an eliminator match last week on Dynamite, right? Now, in these eliminator matches, if you beat the champion, then that gives you a championship title match. I'm not here to talk about whether or not I like about eliminator matches. I don't. But this one was actually pretty cool because Brody King, who isn't typically in the world title scene, squashed the living daylights out of MJF, their world champion. So this is pretty cool. A guy coming from the hardcore world, a guy coming from punk rock, just dominating mainstream professional wrestling or whatever. So I'm thinking that's pretty cool. But the big thing about him, and you see this image on screen right now, is Brody King is very vocal against ICE. He's a fuck ICE kind of guy, you know what I'm saying? So much so that he was wearing t-shirts that said abolish ICE, fuck ICE, and that sort of thing. And the thing about professional wrestling fans is they get behind the messaging of their favorite wrestlers, right? So even if it's not really a political message, but if it's in support of one of their favorite wrestlers, they'll chant it, they'll say it, but in this case, they actually also do believe it, you know? So either way, in this championship match, main event, Dynamite, Wednesday night, live on television, Brody King going up against MJF, the crowd erupts, and I'm telling you, erupts into fuck ICE chants. Everybody on television saying fuck ICE, fuck ICE. This is a pretty cool moment politically. This is a pretty cool moment for Brody King because now he's being seen as a main event guy that has the entire audience on board with him, you know? All of that is so sick from him as a professional wrestler, as a musician, as a human being, as an activist, and all that sort of stuff. So everybody is really behind his messaging and doing his sort of thing on his side of the aisle or whatever. He's from punk rock, he's from hardcore, it's very, very typical. And the image that you see on screen right now is actually drawn by, like, one of the hottest fucking comic book artists going today. If you ask anybody that's reading modern day comics who their favorite artist is, it's probably the guy that drew this image right here. His name is Daniel Warren Johnson. This guy is a hell of a writer, drawer, illustrator, you name it. This guy puts together such awesome comic books. So to have Daniel Warren Johnson, who is a gigantic wrestling fan, put together this little image over here for Brody King, well, that's amazing. Do you know how much money people pay for Daniel Warren Johnson commissions? And Brody King is just out here getting this one? Fucking so sick, dude. So what does Brody King do when he gets this design? He's not just gonna sit on it. He's not just gonna post it. He's gonna put it on a t-shirt and sell it and use those profits, use those proceeds, and donate them to appropriate charities and stuff like that. So this is really fucking cool, really awesome for a guy on mainstream television to be standing up for these kinds of beliefs, these kinds of values, and to really be vocal with it, to have a whole art community. Pretty much everybody that's in comic books and in punk and on this side of the wrestling world are very much behind what Brody King is saying and what he's doing right now. So very, very cool, right? So what happens in Ontario, California, earlier this week, is a fan shows up wearing this shirt. Well, I believe it to be this shirt. It could be any number of his Abolish ICE, Fuck ICE shirts, but I think it's this one here. So the fan shows up to the venue where Brody King is advertised to be wrestling, and security won't let him in. They're like, you gotta turn your shirt inside out or you gotta leave. And the fan, I'll pull up the post over here right now. The fan is like, what do you mean I gotta leave? So he posted this to Facebook. He's like, I doubt this gets any attention, but if the security team here at Toyota Arena in Ontario, California have a problem with my Brody King Abolish ICE shirt to a point of kicking me out, then they're not making a strong case to get future AEW events booked here. And fair enough, you know? And you know what's crazy is that he probably wasn't the only one wearing this shirt, but to be singled out and to be made an example of for wearing this shirt is a little bit fucked up, man. But on another thing that I find very interesting in this picture over here is that it's like cropped at his neck, you know what I mean? You can't really see the shirt. This could just be a post for engagement, for attention on Facebook or whatever. But this is kind of what kicked off after last week. This story started making the rounds after that fuck ICE chant erupted on Dynamite television, right? So either way, this was just a really big part of the conversation. Be it legitimate or not, I haven't sourced it, I haven't verified it, but it was just a part of the conversation, right? So this guy was going viral a little bit, and then what happened was another week went by, Wednesday happened, it is Dynamite time, and everybody wants to see the world champion and Brody King, you know, on the way to the big event, on the way to their big match. Are they going to be on television? Because normally, when you're setting up a match, a huge championship match, on a weekend, on a pay-per-view type thing, then those participants are going to be on the television show to hype it up and to try to sell it. But they weren't there this week, ladies and gentlemen. They were conspicuous by their absence. So everybody was thinking, why isn't Brody King here? So the preeminent wrestling journalist named Dave Meltzer, who everybody's kind of losing respect for, not going to lie, came out claiming Warner Brothers Discovery went down to Tony Khan, the guy who books AEW, and told him that they do not want Brody King on their television show because they're afraid of Donald Trump. I'll pull up the quote right here, right now. So when Brody King was not on Dynamite a couple days before his big match, which still hasn't happened, Dave Meltzer reported the following. There is a deal that they didn't want the fans in the arena to be chanting that. If Brody came out, there was a risk that when he comes back, it will happen again. I don't know how they're going to handle it. This again is not a Tony call. This came from above, Dave says. Oh my God. You know what it is. Nobody wants to get on Trump's bad side. If it wasn't for that, nobody would care. It's just a chant. But unfortunately, they got a company they're trying to sell and get regular approval from a guy who is going to take that kind of stuff personal. That's just how it is. No Brody King on the show when he was absolutely, of course, Brody King and MJF should have had a segment on the show. Well said, Dave. Absolutely well said. The most perfect structured sentence I've ever read in my entire life. That is what he said. He reported that it was a Trump thing coming down from Warner Brothers Discovery and that it was not a Tony Khan call. All right, so that's all pretty definitive stuff. So there's another journalist out there. His name is Sean Ross Sapp, and he got in contact with Warner Brothers Discovery themselves, and Warner Brothers denied the whole thing. Here's what Sean Ross Sapp had to say. Warner Brothers Discovery did not have any involvement in Brody King's upcoming AEW schedule. Any speculation of the contrary is categorically false. Brody is scheduled to appear during the next AEW event, which will be this Saturday on TNT and HBO Max. And that'll be when he goes up against MJF for the world title. So it wasn't even true. That is from the horse's mouth. You think Dave Meltzer, the journalist of all journalists, would verify these things before just saying words on his show. So this week's episode of Dynamite ended and he cammed up with Brian Alvarez to do a show, and he reported that it was a Trump thing. He reported that it was a Warner Brothers Discovery thing, and all of that stuff was false. Jesus Christ. So what more than likely happened was, since this weekend's show is happening in Australia, maybe these top tier talents have already started to fly down there in order to acclimate with the time zone so they're not all fucked up by the time the event happens. I'm not exactly sure, that is just speculation, but that is kind of what I'm thinking. But it had nothing to do with Donald Trump. It had nothing to do with fuck ICE. It had nothing to do with anything. Brody King was just off TV for a little bit because he was probably going to Australia. Now that this is all kicked off online, the next time people see Brody King in an arena, the fuck ICE chants are gonna be insane. But the next time that they're in an arena, they're actually going to be in Australia. So I'm not exactly sure if the Australians are going to care enough to be chanting that. But it is a chant for a wrestler in support of the wrestler, and it's going to be in Australia. So I think that they might do it, especially after this week, because AEW kind of books for the internet crowd. They're like the internet wrestling company, essentially. And everybody that fills those arenas for AEW are very savvy with what goes on the internet when it comes to these journalists and all these things that people are saying. So I'm really thinking in Australia, we're probably going to get the biggest fuck ICE chant of all time. And I'm pretty excited for it. But that's all speculation. Who knows? You know, they might not do that at all. But all I'm thinking is this is the singer from God's Hate. 5 years ago, when I'm just like into this band, when I'm just watching their sets, when I'm pulling up all their clips and reacting to them, when he's over there at Sound and Fury stage diving on people, I'm never thinking that this guy is going to be not only signed to one of the biggest wrestling companies, but going up against the champion for the championship belt in Australia in this huge event. I think that's very sick. Now, I don't think he's actually going to win it. Unfortunately, I think MJF is going to win, maybe by shenanigans, maybe someone's going to make a return, maybe someone's going to do something crazy, and Brody King, unfortunately, I don't think is going to be walking away with the gold. But wouldn't that be fucking sick? The fuck ICE guy, the abolish ICE guy, the punk rock guy, the hardcore singer, wouldn't that be fucking awesome if he was the world champion? Yeah, that would be fucking sick. And he's not just like a singer character guy. That's his real thing. So fucking awesome. Now, I'm not exactly sure how many shows with God Hate he does. I think it's very infrequently these days. The members of the band, God's Hate, like Colin Young and the rest of them, they all do separate things because Brody King is way too busy being a big famous fucking wrestler guy. But the band hasn't broken up. The band is only on like a part-time type schedule kind of thing. I'm not exactly sure when their next set is or when their next event is. So either way, this could have been a very dramatic story, but it really doesn't seem like there was that much drama involved whatsoever. The only drama really is that Dave Meltzer keeps fucking screwing the pooch and misinforming everybody involved. But if you're a God's Hate fan, if you're a rock and roll fan, if you like punk rock and independent DIY underground music, then I think that you should find a way to watch this match coming up this weekend because it's a big moment for the community. But I want to hear from you. Sound off down below. And now for the biggest announcement you've ever heard. I now have my comic book in hand, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to be releasing this thing February 25th. February 25th, and you'll finally get your hands on this. It is surreal to have this in hand right now. But there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest announcement of all time in the history of this channel. For the first time, we got a merch drop. And you know what that merch drop is? It is this fucking comic book right here. I am so proud of this thing. This thing took me so long to make. This is a lifetime essentially in the making over here. I was drawing my entire life. I went to school for animation. I never worked in animation whatsoever, but I kept drawing a little bit. Then I gave it up, went and did music, and now I'm combining it all into this story right here. The Scrupulous Mosh Man. This is like a story based on old golden and silver age style comic book stuff. This is just a superhero story based on punk rock guys with super powered spray paint canisters. I think that you're gonna love it. Check it out. So that's the Scrupulous Mosh Man, and this is the very first time that anyone can be entering the Pit Pros universe. We're taking everything we started on this channel, everything that we brought over to fucking Instagram, and there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the Scrupulous Mosh Man. You're gonna love to see it. So February 25th, mark your calendars. February 25th. That is 2 weeks away. Well, a week and a half away. Okay, February 25th. And there's going to be a website that you can go and buy it. All right, and that website is moshman.bigcartel.com. Now, it hasn't been launched officially yet, but that will be the URL. So write it down right now, circle it on your calendar, because there are only 24 available issues. That's right, this is going to be extremely limited, very rare. The very first printing is going to come with this certificate of authenticity that I've signed and everything. There's only 24 of them. So mark it down. If you want one, there's going to be a very small window where they're going to be available, okay? February 25th, moshman.bigcartel.com for your issue. First printing ever of the scrupulous Moshman. This isn't that false scarcity stuff that fucking Nike does. This is real scarcity, okay? There are legitimately only 24 of them. There would be 25, but I got to keep one for myself, right? But that is the big announcement, ladies and gentlemen. February 25th, moshman.bigcartel.com. 24 issues, extremely rare, very collectible. So if you've been supporting the channel, if you've been here for a long time, you know I haven't done a merch drop ever, okay? I might have put out a shirt here and there, but it was never really an official merch drop or anything like that. But this is the very first one ever. So if you have what it takes to support me financially and you want to get your hands on this full comic book, full story with story by me, art by me, everything by me, layouts, composition, colors, lettering, fucking the whole 9 yards, bro. It's a one-man operation that I've signed and everything. They're numbered personally. I'm going to send them out personally. 24 of them, okay? February 25th. So stay tuned. There's going to be promotional teasers and trailers and all sorts of stuff, all sorts of content and goodies surrounding my very first comic book ever. I'm so stoked that it's finally here, ladies and gentlemen. And just for full transparency, there's the full stack of them. There's the certificate of authenticity. Good God, get your hands on one of these bad boys. February 25th. And that's the big announcement. I am going to be mentioning it in every single video going forward, so get used to hearing about the scrupulous Moshman. But now that you're here at the very end of the video, I'll give you guys a sneak peek, okay? Just a little bit here. It's the page I've already shown, but I am very, very happy with how this turned out. And I hope you guys have as much fun reading this thing as I did making it. We got the Captain America homage cover on the front. You're going to learn all about this guy and all sorts of other characters within these pages. February 25th, moshman.bigcartel.com. Be there. No pre-order. First come, first serve. That's going to be how it is. Okay, thanks for watching. Goodbye. See you later. Have a good one.